I'm Devon Galani, the Director of Policy and Practice, and in this short video demonstration, I'm going to talk to you about the impact of household level data. At Policy and Practice, we make government policy simple for people to understand so they can make the decisions that are right for them. One area where we've been helping local authorities is on welfare reform. This slide shows just how much policy is changing in this area. The combined impact of all of these changes put together is typically very confusing, not just for individuals affected by it, but also for the organisations that are trying to help their residents. Local authorities historically have tended to look at each one of these policies in isolation. One of our first clients, Steve Carey at Leeds City Council, said to us, he put it quite well when he said, "I can't see whether the people that are being clobbered by reductions in council tax support or under occupation are the same people that are going to be clobbered by other reforms." And that's the problem that we helped them to solve, and many other local authorities too. This person-centred approach is having an impact on how local authorities are making strategic and operational decisions. So you're going from saying Leeds is affected by the benefit cap by £700,000 to Mrs. Biggins at 73 Acacia Terrace in Leeds will be affected by all welfare changes put together by £15.62 per week. And you might even be able to say whether or not she has high or low barriers to work. She might be a carer, for example, in this case. And you can see how that might change how you get support to her. Mrs. Biggins, if you're better off under universal credit, might receive a different message from her neighbour who might be worse off under universal credit. You can see how the way in which you communicate to each individual household might differ based on their own circumstances. So how do we do this? This person-centred approach? Well, we take your data, housing benefit data, council tax data typically, that exists consistently at a local authority level, is kept up to date, and it's the basis upon which these payments are made. We run it through our policy modelling engine, the Universal Benefit Calculator, which you might want to check out. And that gives us a detailed impact assessment at the household level that can be aggregated up too. So you can understand the impact on your local authority, on each individual ward, on each individual neighbourhood within that ward, right down to street and household level. So I'll start off with the picture that you're used to seeing, the aggregate level data. This tells you the impact of each individual policy, the impact of all policies combined, how many households are affected, and the average impact. You can also see which household type is most heavily affected by each particular reform for your local area, what tenure they're in, whereabouts they are. This takes you to reforms that past reforms, upcoming reforms, reforms that only affect new claimants, reforms that might affect households positively, like the national living wage, for example, that's about to be introduced. Now, all of that aggregate level data is built up from household level data, which I think is where this gets really interesting. So I'll just show you that. We start off here with a reference number. This is what allows the local authority to map that back onto personally identifiable data. We don't touch any personally identifiable data, we just do the analysis anonymously on each household. Then we've got indicators for each household, so that you can group households together, like whether they're single, whether they've got children. You can group by, for example, age group. I'll just here focus on working age households because they're the ones most heavily impacted by welfare reforms. Their tenure, whether they're owner occupiers in the social rented sector or if they're in the private rented sector, whether they're working or not, and if not, why not. They might be disabled or a carer, for example. The rent they pay, their level of earnings, if they have savings or not. Then you can start to look at the impact of past reforms. This says whether or not they're affected by under occupation, if they're in the private rented sector, whether they're paying rent above the local housing allowance, if they're affected by the council's council tax support scheme, or if they're protected. Then you start to look at future reforms. Now, I'll quickly show you the power of this analysis here by looking at the benefit cap. So I'll filter here, I'm doing this in real time, all of the households that are affected by the benefit cap. And I've already sorted them by the amount that they're affected. So this shows you that the benefit cap, this household is affected by the benefit cap by £265 per week. And you can see how you might prioritise support for that household over this one, which is only affected by 4p per week. And you can also get some aggregate data here. So if I just select that row, I can see that there's 134 households in this area affected by this particular reform. And that's just one reform. So this is exists for all of them. So you've got pay to stay, reforms affecting young people, whether universal credit, whether or not they're better off or worse off, and the amount of transitional protection they might need. Then you can look at the impact of all of these reforms combined. So we've mapped the cumulative impact of all of these reforms together. It's not just a case of adding up the impact of each individual reform, they interact in different ways. So if you benefit from the national living wage, your benefits, both your universal credit or your council tax support, will be affected by that. And we model all of those in a very accurate way through our universal benefit calculator. We then sort by households whether the cumulative impact is high, medium, or low. Remember, I've filtered here for households affected by the benefit cap, so they're all affected significantly. You can even identify whether or not they have high, medium, or low barriers to work. So if they've got caring responsibilities for children, for adults, if they've got a disability. So you can see here that there are some households that have low barriers to work. You might target employment support to that group. Whereas households that have high barriers to work, you might focus financial support for that group. So you can see how you can use this information to target support to individual households. You can even combine it with other data sets like rent arrears, so you can see that a household that's already in rent arrears, that's going to be affected in the future negatively by some of these reforms, how you might want to get preventative support to them now in order to help them to sustain their tenancy in the future. So that's just a quick run through of the household level data set. And I just want to say, I think we're only scratching the surface of what's possible here. So we're taking this household level data, and I think we're on a journey. We're applying it, we're helping local authorities to make better strategic and operational decisions. But we're now beginning to do this on a regular basis for local authorities, and we're able to track the impact on households over time. So you can start to look at the behavioural impact that these policies or other interventions are having on those households. You can also start to combine with other data sets. We've done this recently for Haringey, where we've combined this data with information they hold on, say, their troubled families, the troubled families that they're working with, or with their social care data sets, to look at causation and correlation, and which households you might want to particularly focus resources to. And the direction we're taking this in is, hopefully in the long term, a real-time online dashboard that gives a local authority real-time view of income, employment, and poverty in their area, and what they can do about it. Gives them guidance on the steps they can take, which households they might want to prioritise. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much. My name is Devin Galani. You can follow me on Twitter. If you want to contact us, please email hello@policyandpractice.co.uk. You might want to check out alongside this the Universal Benefit Calculator software that helps explain these changes, not at the strategic or operational level, but to the individual household when you're knocking on their door. It's a very fast, engaging, easy to use tool. Okay, I'll stop there. Thanks very much for your time. And if you've got any questions, please do get in touch. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, bye-bye.